New Year and welcome back to Unstoppable. I'm Sejal Govindarao.
And I'm Ashley Robinson.
To start today's episode, we'd like to take a moment to recognize National Girls and Women in Sports Day, which was this past week. It's a day that spotlights the incredible achievements of female athletes and honors the progress towards advocacy for equality in sports. I share the anchor desk with two, Ashley on the track team and Brittany on the cheer team, so shout out to both of you. The women's basketball team secured their second win in A10 play this season against St. Bonaventure 69-48, and it comes after a tough 6-game losing streak. That first A10 win was also against the Bonnies. First year, Kamari Sims fired up the team with a crucial three-pointer that spurred a second quarter lead, and graduate student Mayoa Taiwo put up 15 rebounds. Graduate students Nia Locke and Essence Brown led the team in points, scoring 18 and 17 respectively.
GW Gymnastics earned a season-high score of 195.575 last week at Long Island University in Brookville, New York. GW scored 48.675 on bars, 48.3 on beam, 49.1 on floor, and 49.1 on vault. Senior Annalise Silverman took first place all around with a score of 39.175. Senior Kendall Whitman took first place on floor with a score of 9.925 and placed first on beam with a score of 9.75. And junior Sarah Zoas placed first on vault with a score of 9.875. The team will next compete at their annual Pink Meet in the Smith Center, hosting Kent State, UNH, Towson, and William & Mary.
The men's basketball team is facing a series of tough losses, falling most recently to Rhode Island this past Tuesday, 65-88. Despite the absence of Garrett Johnson, freshman Darren Buchanan Jr. led the team, putting up 23 points, and Max Edwards trailed closely behind with 18. The Revolutionaries ultimately lost their halftime lead and will face off against Loyola Chicago this weekend, giving them another shot to climb up the A10 ranks.
Men's and women's swim and dive suffered losses to Yale in their final dual meet of the year. Both teams still recorded notable wins throughout the meet, including freshman Daniel Choi in the 1,000-yard freestyle, sophomore Tony Dragoja in the 200-yard freestyle, and senior Carl Lenarchik in the 100-yard backstroke for the men's team. The women's team secured wins from sophomore Olivia Paquette in the 3-meter board, junior Barbara Shaw in the 100-yard backstroke, and sophomore Phoebe Wright in the 200-yard backstroke. The team will send 9 swimmers to the UVA Cavalier Invitational this weekend. Also in studio with us this morning is Brittany LaVecchia, who has the details on GW teams whose seasons are just getting started.
It's good to be back. Let's take a look at some GW sports that are kicking off this month. GW Golf began their spring season last week and placed 4th overall at the MAC A10 match at Lake Covita Golf Club in Florida. In the fall season, the team posted 4 of the 8 lowest 54-hole scores in program history. Looking ahead for the Revolutionaries, the team will now take a month off from competition before their season kicks into full gear with the Daytona Beach Intercollegiate on March 4th. GW Lacrosse will kick off their season with 2 home games, taking on Howard and Kansas. The Revolutionaries ended their 2023 season 6-12 overall and 5-5 in A10 play. The team welcomed 4 first-year players and 4 transfer students this season, and we are definitely excited to see how the team performs this upcoming season. Next up on Unstoppable, Sarah and Tia have the latest on F1.
Welcome back to Unstoppable's Formula One coverage. We're here to bring you all the behind-the-scenes info on the starting 2024 F1 season. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Tia. A lot has gone down in F1 since last season ended, and we're here to give you a recap of an exciting winter break. First off, let's start by talking about the elephant in the room. Lewis Hamilton is officially leaving Mercedes and joining Ferrari for the 2025 season.
Yeah, it was definitely a very jarring piece of information to get because we see this every silly season, a rumor happening that Ferrari is trying to convince Hamilton to move, but this was not the first time that Ferrari has called, but they've historically been really loose, informal chats. And no one really thought that this time it was formal when Ferrari's chairman, John Elkman, called Hamilton last spring. But it was even more surprising because during the past summer, Lewis extended his Mercedes contract to the end of 2025.
But here's the thing, right? In the winter, you could tell that Ferrari called him again because they had been sensing that Lewis's resolve was breaking, especially when it came to him wanting to achieve his 8th Drivers' Championship with Mercedes. And not to mention the fact that over this past season, Lewis Hamilton had a 45-race streak without a single win, which is the longest he had ever gone in his career.
Yeah, and this really started after his loss in Abu Dhabi in 2021 with that really intense battle between him and Max Verstappen, which cost him his 8th Drivers' Championship. But at that point, he still believed that Mercedes had what it take to compete with Red Bull. But this past season, we can see that his mind has changed. Ferrari also laid out a really incentivizing plan for him, and they laid out their new plan for a power unit in 2026.
Over the past 2 years also, it became clear that Mercedes was falling behind all the other teams, especially with everyone rapidly improving. And apparently this was enough for Hamilton because last Thursday, Mercedes had called a team meeting announcing his official departure from the team. Also, not to mention the fact that the last couple of years had been a real struggle at Mercedes, especially for Lewis Hamilton. I mean, he was just not getting exactly what he had been wanting. He was not winning the way he had been wanting nor expecting from the Mercedes team. And then not to mention that last year Ferrari had a new team principal, Frederick Vasseur, who had been doing really good for his first year, especially compared to past Ferrari team principals. And also, obviously, there's the $100 million contract, which is not a bad incentive for Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the main reasons that he moved, but I think another one that a lot of people have been talking about is just the childhood goal that racing for Ferrari is. For a lot of drivers, you can ask almost any driver on the grid, and it has been a dream at some point in their life to race for Ferrari just because it's such an iconic team. Ferrari also did something that Mercedes never gave Hamilton, which was making him a company ambassador. Hamilton asked for years for Mercedes to have him be an ambassador, and they never let him. So it was a very interesting pull that Ferrari did. So even though that this is a crazy move, he doesn't leave until the end of 2024. So we know that 2024 silly season is going to be bonkers. So what are your predictions for who's going to take that seat?
So personally, what I think, and what I think a lot of people agree with me on, is I think that Alex Albon will be taking Lewis Hamilton's seat in Mercedes. The reason for this is just purely based off of his track record. We can see how quickly he is improving as a driver, and also people have made predictions about how great his 2025 season will be.
Yeah, and also I feel like that's a really good prediction, but there's also Andrea Kimi, who's Mercedes development driver. He's been with them since 2019, but he was 12 when he joined them. So he's been with Mercedes for a big chunk of his racing career. And he's definitely looking promising.
I mean, especially considering, like, as a 12 or 13-year-old, if you're good enough to sign at that age, I don't think Mercedes would be hesitating to sign him as, like, an official driver, despite the fact that he's only 17 years old this year and will be 18 for the 2025 season. Our last prediction, which personally I don't agree with, and I feel like a lot of people, I think they're hoping for it, but they realize that it won't happen, is Mick Schumacher. I mean, he has improved a lot. We have seen him improve over the years. You know, he's carrying the legacy of his father. However, we can really tell that he still needs a lot of more time as a development driver just to kind of get back on his foot, especially considering how his season with Haas had been.
Exactly, and I think one of the main things was that we just weren't expecting this crazy of a silly season. Like, we didn't see any driver moves at the end of the season. All of the drivers were locked into their spots. The only thing that we really saw was team principals changing, the biggest one being Gunther Steiner's departure from Haas. At his first public event, he revealed that he had gotten a phone call from Gene Haas telling him that they didn't want to extend his contract. Steiner said that he wasn't very surprised because just of how Haas has been performing and how they haven't been performing very great. And then we saw the director of engineering step up to replace him.
Haas isn't the only with a team principal. We saw that halfway through the last season, Alpine had a team principal change in which their previous team principal was replaced by Bruno Famin, who was previously the vice president of Alpine. Now, we didn't really see much of him in the last season just because of the fact that he had joined midway through. So I think we're definitely looking forward to see how he performs this season as a team principal.
Clearly, this is going to be a crazy season for all teams, especially Mercedes and Ferrari. Thank you for joining us for this preseason recap, and we can't wait to bring you along for the rest of the season.
Thanks, Sarah and Tia. Now we go to Mark and Spencer for Unstoppable's Super Bowl predictions.
Welcome back to NFL and Unstoppables. I'm Spencer.
And I'm Mark.
And we're going to go through our Super Bowl picks. So tell me, let's just start off right off the bat. Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
I mean, in my opinion, I think the answer is clear. I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers. In my opinion, I just think on paper they have the better team. They have an elite defense. They have the offensive pieces. They got wide receivers, running backs, line, and everything. So I just think the 49ers are going to run
But you
with
think Brock Purdy is the guy?
I mean,
really?
His supporting cast is too good. I mean, they showed it in the playoffs, showed a regular season, one of the best teams regular season, and I think they're going to get it done.
But I mean, we're talking about a guy who, at best is a mid-grade quarterback taking, making guys look mid. I mean, obviously they got pieces, right? George Kittle and tight end. But is he really the guy that can make them that much better?
I mean, I think you can if you have like everything around them. I mean, you don't need an elite quarterback nowadays, I guess, in terms of Brock Purdy. I mean, other teams have them, but he just gets the, I mean, they're just enough.
I'm going to disagree with you, though. I really think that the Chiefs are going to have it. I mean, obviously, all the Swifties are backing me as well, but, we're going to get to that in just a couple minutes. But, having the tight end pieces that they have, having the line pieces, their defense is good. I mean, they have a lot of problems on their defense, but their defense is good enough to, I think, hold on to that 49ers
Do you think they have enough weapons? Like, you have Travis Kelce, and like, who else do you have?
Kadarius Toney. Right, I think.
He drops all the balls.
The thing is, you have a good quarterback making other guys look good, right? As you can see across the NFL, right? Look at Lamar Jackson, for example.
Okay.
NFL MVP winner this year, right? He made a team with a lot of interesting pieces look a lot better than they actually were, right? On paper, obviously, right? You could say that about Jared Goff, right? Who I think is a top quarterback in the league, makes pieces look very good. And they're already good, but they make them look very good. Josh Allen makes his pieces look very good, right? Good quarterbacks make good pieces look even better. And I just don't see Brock Purdy having that kind of thing.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah. But to our Swifties, now the real question is, who will have more airtime, Usher or Taylor Swift? Which musical legend?
I would like to think Usher would because he's doing the halftime show. I mean, some other things are like, what do you think the Gatorade color is going to be? Personally, I'm an orange guy.
Oh, it's got to be yellow. We got to go classic with the yellow.
National anthem is going to go over under. We'll see.
Joining us now is Zach Brody, who's coming from Las Vegas as our Super Bowl correspondent.
Zach Brody live in Las Vegas, Nevada, on the ground of Allegiant Stadium here. The vibes in Las Vegas, all Kansas City red. From the casinos to the ground floors to everything else, Kansas City has the vibe here. You can feel it in the air. You can feel it at Allegiant Stadium. It's going to be Kansas City Day on Super Bowl day. My score prediction, 33-7. Kansas City takes the dub. That's all for now. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Zach. Now back to us. Was there anything really surprising about the NFL award show?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few. For me, first of all, is Defensive Player of the Year. I think TJ Watt should have won it. And you look at that Steelers team, you look at their offense was very lackluster this season. And the only reason they even made a playoff berth, I say, was their defense. And TJ Watt led the league in sacks. He's actually led the league in sacks 3 out of 4 years now. So I think he was deserving another Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, he's probably the biggest snub of the night. Obviously, the Browns team, has a lot of pieces, right? They have Player of the Year, they have Coach of the Year, right? So obviously, Myles Garrett seemed like an obvious choice, given how, big question marks they had in the offensive line. But if we're really going to give it based off of, how good they were on offense, right, and how questionable they were, then any number of Jet players could have done it.
I mean,
right? I'm not saying that as a Jet fan. I'm saying that if we're talking about the number one defense in the league, right, having 0 guys who were in that conversation, I think that if we're basing it just off that, which is why I agree with you on TJ Watt, right? He's a guy who makes the entire defense look good with a very unquestionable team.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Jets have to make the playoffs first time in 13 years. Moving on, another one that intrigues me a little bit is Offensive Rookie of the Year, C.J. Stroud versus Puka Nacua. I know they gave it to C.J. Stroud, and I think he deserved it. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I agree. C.J. Stroud was definitely the guy who needed to win it. I mean, we're talking about a guy who took a Houston Texans team with, again, a lot of question marks. This goes back to my point about
I think they had 3
great
wins last
quarterbacks to make guys look great, right? They had 3 quarterbacks last year. They haven't been in the playoffs since Deshaun Watson 4 years ago, with a whole lot of rebuild in the middle, right? We're talking about guys who they lost, DeAndre Hopkins, right? One of the best receivers at the time, and not having those pieces, right? Again, you look at how they're rebuilding, they're on to a great start.
Yeah, they got young receivers, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, just something to look forward to in the future. They could be dangerous.
Exactly, and Puka's good in his own right. Like, Puka's a great wide receiver. He's showed why he's going to be a star in this league, but he's just not there yet in the sense of why he's going to make the team better.
Yeah.
Right? He's not that Mike Evans type of player yet. He's not the, Tyreek Hill type of player yet, because that offense isn't built for him yet. But I give it 1 year, Sean McVay is going to make that team look beautiful.
He's quite the coach.
Now we're going to look towards, the offseason a little bit here, and really the draft's coming up. So I want to know, who do you think is the number 1 pick?
I mean, I would have to say Caleb Williams. I think out of USC, he really brings everything. I know right now the Bears hold the #1 pick, but they got the Justin Fields, Caleb Williams situation. What they're going to do, I have no clue. In my opinion, I think the draft starts at 3. I think 1 goes Caleb Williams, 2 goes Drake May, and 3, the Patriots there can go either Marvin Harrison or they can go Jaden Daniels. So I think there's a big question mark.
I mean, I totally agree. I mean, Patriots at 3 really have an interesting position here. This is the first time in years where they're having a whole new offensive staff, a whole new coaching staff.
Yeah.
Right, obviously, Jared Mayo has been there for years. He's been a Patriot for, the last 20 years of his life, essentially. So really, he's got, a lot of backing. But they have a whole new personnel room because there's no one making the final decision anymore.
Yeah.
They're actually putting in like a GM and a president of football. So I think we're really going to see, a reshuffle of the Patriots. And really, do they trust Mac? Do they trust him? I mean, I wouldn't. I'm not saying that as a Jet fan. Shout out Shannon. But, I just don't trust Mac Jones at all. I think he's, not the guy to take the Patriots into the future. With a new head coach, I think they need to restart.
Yeah, I think starting fresh for the Patriots would be a good sign. Moving on from the Belichick era, like you could just start fresh and then rebuild from there. And I think they could do it in a couple of years.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for NFL on Unstoppables, and we'll kick it right back to the studio.
Thanks, Mark and Spencer. I personally think the Niners are going to win.
I agree. I think it'll be the Niners too. But regardless of who wins, there are definitely going to be some great plays. Maybe some will make it in our next episode's top 10, which is up next. Rami and Issa, over to you.
Hello, 2024. We are so excited to be back with you on GWTV's Unstoppable.
There has been a lot of sports happening, which means a lot of highlight plays.
You know what that means. It's time for this episode's Top 10 Plays.
Coming in at number 10, the Boston Bruins have been playing a strong season, and their first goal against the Ottawa Senators are no exception. A minute left of the first period, and bam, Pasternak scores a beautiful slap shot into the goal.
What a play there for the Bruins. Coming in at number 9 is Jameson Williams. Unfortunately, the Lions lost this game, but look at this beautiful end-around play that he would take all the way to the house to start off the Lions with a 7-0 lead. Unfortunately, they did not show the same level of effort in the second half, but we don't have to talk about it.
Coming in at number 8, the Devils played against the Colorado Avalanche this past week and won 5-3. Here we have John Marino with their gorgeous 4th goal. Bratt wraps around but can't quite get it. Marino gets the puck and shoots and scores a beautiful goal. Look at that.
If I tried this for hours and hours, I wouldn't be able to do that. That's incredible. Coming in at number 7, we have our glorious king, LeBron James, slamming it over top of Nick Richards. He's doing things at 39 years old that 39-year-olds should not be able to do. Look at the athleticism.
At number 6, we have some Premier League action. Richarlison returns to his old club and scores 2. This is the second, and what a shot it is. Truly a great player, and I'm glad to see he started scoring again.
Truly, truly. And last time they played Everton and Tottenham, he scored 2, but for Everton, so it's just a funny coincidence. Coming in at number 5, we have Lamar Jackson looking and scrambles, doing what he does best, getting out of the escape, and then launching it to one of his favorite targets this season, Zay Flowers, who finds the end zone to tie the game in the AFC Championship. Again, an unfortunate loss for Baltimore.
Happens. At number 4, we have the Rockets' Cam Whitmore, who passes to Jalen Green for the dunk. Green takes the pass from Whitmore and leaps into the air to get that shot. His athleticism is really on display.
One hand is disgusting. Coming in at number 3, we have Kevin De Bruyne making its return to the Premier League after a 4-month rehab. And look at that beautiful ball into Phil Foden in the box. City ended this one with a 3-1 win after Phil Foden got 3 goals for himself. What a hat trick, what a ball, and what a play.
At number 2, we have Lamar Jackson passing it to himself. He wanted to quickly throw, but the ball was tipped, and he ran out and caught it, even gaining a few yards. The awareness to do that, insane. I just, crazy.
That does not happen every day, and he definitely saved the game. I know they still lost, but he kept them in the game with that play.
Definitely.
Our top play this week is none other than Taylor Swift's favorite tight end, Travis Kelce, finding the end zone, and look at this throw by Mahomes and the catch by Kelce. Touchdown Chiefs. There is just no stopping this duo. I'm excited to see them in the Super Bowl.
I cannot wait.
They are a lethal tight end duo, and there's Taylor Swift, our favorite celebrity at the game, cheering on her boyfriend. So
yeah,
that's top 10 plays for this week. Thank you so much for watching.
And we will see you next time.
That'll do it for today's show.
And from all of us here at GWTV, raise high.